Anybody with an ARM loan, especially the last 5 years when they got really creative with these structures, paying interest only, paying less than the interest, negatively amortizing, structured with these large adjustments baked into them, those loans are not understood by most people that sign them. As a counselor, we see people come in all the time. I don't know what I signed. Here's my documents. Read this for me. My payment just went to this. How can they do this? What's going on? Nobody ever told me. And when you read those documents, as a mortgage professional, myself, 30 years in the business, another counselor we have here, 30 in the business, in the mortgage business, we have trouble understanding the documents that are created the last 5 years.
Wow.
Even before that, they were complicated, but they are very, very complicated. Well more than half the loans in the Washington, D.C. area on these complicated structures.
Wow.
And we think that we're in for a very difficult time with people getting these payment notices.
Wow. Wow.
Okay.
So, I mean, from what I hear, then, is that if you have an adjustable rate mortgage, almost no matter when it was, it's best to
find out.
Find out. And you could go to one of the free credit counseling agencies
right.
to find out about it, or the
That's right.
housing counseling agencies. Right.
You can call your lender, okay, if they're a responsible lender, okay. The big banks, they have good customer service. They'll tell you exactly what your loan is, when it's going to change, and all that. Even some of the subprime lenders, the computer, log on the system, get to your loan number, look up when is my loan changing. What they won't tell you is how much it's going to change.
I see.
What's the worst case? Okay, and unfortunately for a lot of folks, the worst case is the most likely case. Okay, so there's a lot of folks where the banks would say, don't worry, you'll refinance before that, etc. And they want you to come back to them to refinance.
Right.
Strong recommendation is to get counseling before refinancing, to avoid the advertisements from the people who can afford to put those advertisements on the television and radio.
I'm one of my
they are making
yes.
extraordinary fees on every loan. Subprime lenders can afford to run all those ads, send all the stuff in the mail, because they're going to take $8,000, $10,000, $15,000 out of your loan every time you do a loan with a subprime lender.
Right.
A prime or responsible lender, your total fees might be $3,000. Okay, so every time they tell you they're refinancing you and getting you a better payment, folding all your debt into it, they're taking on average, around $10,000 of your money.
And a prime. $10,000 versus $3,000 on a prime.
Yeah.
And 80% of the people who pay $10,000 probably could have paid
$3,000, and then in most cases they're getting into a loan that's going to be hundreds of dollars a month more
than after that.
It might look cheap the first month, but if that lender is on that subprime list, it's almost guaranteed that you're paying too much.
How long does the process take? I mean, you mentioned about it may take 20 minutes on the phone. It may take a meeting or two. Is that sort of like the general rule of thumb?
That would be the idea, is that you'd have, and in most cases, you don't have to travel to meet. Okay, they'll do counseling over the telephone. Now, if you've got documents that need to be reviewed, you got to make an appointment, show up. Counselors, are getting very small, fees from the government. I mean, the support for the counseling industry is very thin, so their appointment might be a month out. Might be 2 months out.
What that? You're talking about a 30-year mortgage.
You're in a 30-year mortgage. Make the appointment. Show up. That 1 hour or 2 hours of your time could save you thousands of dollars. And we always tell folks, do you get paid $1,000 an hour? No. Okay. Come on in. We should be able to educate you $1,000 worth.
Wow.
Right? Because over time, you're just going to save a lot of money. The mortgages. A very large loan. It's a very large investment in the house. Small amounts of time, add up to very large savings.
If they call or whatever, are there income requirements that you're going to
in most cases, there's no income requirements. There are people
to get the help.
There are people making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in very bad mortgages.
I see.
Okay, there are professionals. There are legal professionals. There are finance professionals who trusted their mortgage person. Right. Signed documents. They wanted that house. They wanted that. And they said, "What's the best payment?" And now they don't know what that means. Okay, or they refinance to do something, and that was the best loan they could get at the time, and they just put it in the back of their mind. It is not a low-income person's issue. It's not low-income neighborhood issue. It's worse there, but it's across the country.
So there shouldn't be a stigma. You're showing up the housing counselor because you may be next to a millionaire who's screwed too.
People don't call because they are ashamed.
Yes.
They wait for the bad thing to happen.
Right.
Okay, they might be worried about it. It's back of the mind, but until the payment hasn't changed yet, well, we'll see what happens. Okay, interest rates are low. There's a national problem. Real estate values are going down. It gets harder to refinance when real estate values go down. So, there's a period of time in 2008 when it might be better to do something than 2009.
And
even
also,
if you don't
I
have a
always
change
believe
till
in
then.
any problem, you have a churning inside. If you don't know the right answer, or if you don't know, we're online.
Close it up. Can I get his autograph?
In a little bit, I'll be finished in a little bit. Okay, thank you. That's okay. Don't worry. The worry eats you up inside. When the more and to me, what eliminates worry is having the information to make a
Information. It's not so much education. You're not getting counseling.
Yeah,
okay, because you did something wrong or you don't
It's not like
understand.
rehab.
It's expert advice for free.
Right.
Okay. You go to a tax person to prepare your taxes. You pay them $400, and they do your taxes, and you save a few $100s.
Right.
Free mortgage counseling is free. Okay, and there's very few folks, even professionals in the business, that any of the stuff is easy for. That's simple. Okay, there's no stigma, there's no embarrassment, especially if it's on the telephone. You don't have to look them in the eye.
I screwed up.
Right, and
I was dumb.
Right. Tens of thousands. You're talking across the country, a couple of million households at risk of losing their house. And many of them could avoid that train wreck, that wall that they're going to hit if they get involved early.
When people, I wonder what's out there now, when people are sort of worried, where are they going to instead of this?
Most people we see don't do anything until the problem
Crash
hits,
happens,
right?
yeah.
And then you start hitting your savings, you start working through, and your payment goes up. Now, people lose their jobs, they have family health issues. There are a series of personal events that cause people to have trouble managing their finances, and that's always been a part of what's going on.
Right.
What we're seeing in 2007, 2008, and we think for the next couple of years is financial structures, bad financial decisions by the banks, the lenders, and the people who took these loans, overwhelming that. Okay, that people are going to hit something that's outside their control. They're employed, they've got the same job they always had, their credit has all been fine, but their payment went up. Okay, and their payment goes up a lot. And when the payment goes up a lot, everything else gets squeezed. And so the key thing is for folks, it's not embarrassment. You didn't do something wrong. You didn't, you didn't run up all your credit cards and not pay your bills and all that. You followed what mortgage professionals were telling you was a good idea. It was being done by everybody. Half the people, I know the Washington, D.C. area, half the people in the Washington, D.C. area got these exotic loans, paying interest only or negative amortization, subprime structures, because that was the cost of housing. That's how you bought. But no one explained to you that when these interest rates change, there's nobody there to help you.
Right.
Okay, you have to make that higher and higher and higher payment. It wasn't your fault. That's what people told you, and they put things in front of you that were more complicated than you or almost anyone else. Even they, half the loan officers who put the paper in front of the person,
probably
could not figure it out.
Well, also, I think maybe in that time, I would think, I'm not a real estate guy at all, but it seemed like if values were going so high, it really looked like it wouldn't matter so much in the future.
It didn't matter for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay, home prices in a number of markets, the Washington, D.C. market went up 20% a year, 4 years in a row. That's more than doubling, in 4 or 5 years. Everybody had a cushion, okay? The lenders got very careless, okay, by lending more and lending more and lending more, creating these structures that supported the prices. Average consumers felt they couldn't lose, okay? Home prices go up all the time. Don't worry, you can refinance when it goes up by 20%. You'll have all that money. In worst case, you sell. You walk away with money.
Exactly.
Okay? 2005, we peaked. 2006, we started going down a little bit in value. 2007, we fell off a lot more. So that time is over. And the key is, again, you go back. Get information. You go, where are you? Don't be embarrassed. It's free. It's telephone. And if half the people in these exotic loans called, okay,
They're going to
half those folks could get out of those loans.
Will it cost them $3,000, or is usually that a way to finance that?
There could
You
be
said it may cost you
different
yeah.
solutions for different people.
Right.
You don't know what your situation is. You don't know what your options
Right.
are until you call. So
Right.
number one, you call. That's free. Okay. Get the counseling. Go to a meeting. Get a full understanding of what your options are. If your payment's going up, you may be eligible for refinance. You may not be.
Right.
What is your income like? Can you even afford the loan you're in? What's your credit like? Are you having current credit problems that keep you from getting a responsible loan? Is there equity in your house? Okay? And if the house value is above the loan, you've got equity. If the value is $400,000, you owe $350,000, you have $50,000 of equity to protect. Okay? Most folks, that's all the wealth they have,
Right.
is their equity in their house. And if you're going to have a payment going up on you the next 3 years, and it's going to eat up that wealth, it may be time to refinance. It may be time to try and sell. Take that money out, put it in the bank, and move forward. Okay? If you
But
can't
even
afford
if-
that payment, you got to do something.
So even no matter what your situation is, because even if it's a bad situation, it's going to get worse later anyway. So you got to do something.
That's right.
If it's a good situation and you're a little bit worried, you got to find out now because it may turn into bad.
What can
situation.
you do?
Right. Exactly.
You-
to know your options. Yeah.
Everybody has a couple of options. The people who don't have options are the ones who wait till
Yeah.
it hits. Okay, when people come for counseling and they're 2 months behind, 3 months behind foreclosure notice, there are very few options. There's working with the lenders, and there's counselors that will work with folks. No matter how bad the situation is, you get on the phone with the lender. You don't hide from the phone calls. You don't ignore the mail. You get to the lender and work on a workout. The lender may say, no workout, we're going to foreclose, but there's still, what can you do there? How much time do you have? Can you have a graceful exit? Can you control the sale? If you sell the property, you will always get more than if you go to foreclosure. There are folks that we talk to who have $400,000 houses, $200,000 loans. They can't afford that loan, and they let it go to foreclosure. The foreclosure sale that might send them a $25,000 check.
I
Okay.
see.
And they just wiped out over $100,000 of their money. If they put it on the market and they sold it, maybe they had to sell it for a little bit less, but they walk away with $100,000 more than letting the foreclosure happen.
And housing counseling agencies, the free housing counseling could help them with all that.
We'll
process
talk
of-
them through that. Okay.
Show them what to do.
Anytime you get a counselor on the phone, you're talking to someone who's talked to tens
Yeah.
of folks, maybe hundreds of folks, maybe thousands of folks, different situations. They've seen most of these things
Yeah.
happen to other people. They've worked through them. They know what that lender might do, what that lender might offer, what you might be able to negotiate. There's always something you can do. Sometimes it's very little, okay? Sometimes you can save
Where
yourself
do you
a
think
lot.
people are getting their information if they're not coming to someone like you to make the decisions, or they just throw up their hands and wait till the train hits?
Too many people don't do anything till the end, and then there's nothing left for them, and there are foreclosures happening, hundreds of thousands of foreclosures happening. Some folks talk to their lender, which is a good thing. Okay, call the lender, talk to them, try and do a workout. If they can't get any support there, they sometimes then throw up their hands. Counseling organizations are getting a lot of calls, but they're not hearing from anywhere near the majority of people in difficulty. But most of the folks that call counseling are already at the end. Okay, they've already washed out their savings, borrowed from all their friends and relatives, and they still can't make the payment. Okay, that's too late. If they'd called 6 months earlier, if they'd called a year earlier, when things started to get difficult, they might have had equity in their house that they don't have anymore. They might have been able to work something out with the lender. They might have been able to qualify for a refinance. Before you hit the wall, before the payments get tough, before you get late on even other credit cards or other things, find out what your options are.
So the main thing is that it sounds to me, if you have an adjustable rate mortgage, no matter how rich or poor, whatever they are, call. Find out.
Right.
Because it'll give you the information to know that you don't have a problem, or that you're getting one in 6 months, or it's too late and let us help you now.
Right. And it's not 2005, 2004 when it was a handful of people.
Right.
Okay. Tens of thousands. I mean, the national data says as many as 2 million households are at risk in the next couple of years. So it really is. If you've got an adjustable rate loan, if you don't understand your loan, any level of concern, get an assessment. Free assessments. HUD .gov, find the
Right.
counselor in your community, call, get that assessment, and be part of getting off the train.
Right.
And tell friends and relatives, because once you do it,
Right. That's
then you tell friends and relatives, hey,
Right.
it was painless.
Right.
Look how much I learned. I didn't know this. I can
But
do
you
this.
relieve the burden. I mean,
You
to me,
relieve the burden on yourself,
yeah.
your family tension.
Exactly.
There may not be an answer, but it's better to know today than 6
Absolutely.
months from now.
When you get the facts, worry is worse than getting the facts. To me, it's always it's the unknown. You build all these boogeymen, and when you get the facts and know your options, then it's clear and the problem's gone. Even though it's when the reality is there, and you still have a problem, but you know what to do, and that makes the problem go away. I think when you don't know what to do or unsure, that's what causes the stress and everything.
And the problem may not go away, but
you deal with
you
it.
deal with it.
It's
You
not-
know, you
it's
might
not the
have
end of the world.
option A, B, or C.
Yeah.
For folks that lose their home and lose all their equity, it can be the trauma is huge.
Right.
Okay, but you can have less trauma. If
Yeah.
you had $100,000 in equity and now it's $40,000, that's $40,000. Okay,
But
don't
worrying
worry
about it for 6 months,
Right, and
will be
don't-
worse.
don't worry about the $60,000 that's not there anymore.
Yeah.
Protect the $40,000.
Yeah.
Right, and even if it's $5,000.
Right.
Most folks, they don't have $5,000 in the bank.
Right.
Okay, they're 401k. Okay,
Right.
it sounds like funny money. Real estate value is funny. It's hard money. It's real money. It's your money, and you can protect it. But you got to know.
So then we have, to me, the bottom line is that if you have adjustable rate mortgage and you're a little unsure about anything, call one of these HUD counseling offices at HUD.gov. And I guess that, and no matter what they're saying out there, no matter what a lender tells you, what any expert, so many people ask, cousin Joe because he used to sell real estate, anything. And we're also biased out there that you really need an independent look at whatever.
And you want independent. Okay, before you did a refinance. Okay, the advertisements, the mail,
Yes.
and all that. Anytime you're talking to, if the lender's not on that HUD list of bad lenders,
that's a good
right?
point. Yeah, the HUD
you
list.
can still get almost mortgage brokers. More than half the loans in the country are originated by mortgage brokers. We actually operate as a mortgage
Right.
broker. It's not our money. We're representing somebody.
Right.
Most mortgage brokers are in it for themselves.
Right.
They'll actually tell you anything to close the loan and get themselves a large
Right.
fee. Most mortgage brokers will walk away from your deal with $3,000 or $4,000 in their pocket
Right.
for doing your loan. Get independent assessment,
Which
okay?
is a counseling
A counseling
center.
organization.
Right.
Before
Not
you
a
sign,
mortgage broker or a bank or somebody has a
find
motive.
someone who does not have a financial interest in the transaction, and get that person to look at what you're doing. It might be a great deal, and you might talk to 2 or 3 different lenders, and they all offer you about the same. You say, well, that's what it is. Still call a counselor. Those 2 or 3 lenders could all be overcharging you by thousands of dollars. In this environment, it's very difficult to figure this stuff out. Free counseling. It's there. You can get somebody on the phone who will at least on the phone go over it. If you can get in to put the documents in front of them. There's never a deal where the broker says, you got to sign today or you lose the deal. If they say that, don't sign. Okay? High pressure sales, fast deals are usually bad deals.
Another clue if they're advertising on TV, maybe?
If they're advertising on TV, they're charging a lot of people a lot of money
Right.
to afford to do that.
Right.
Okay? And we always say, you may not trust the big banks, but big banks have auditors. Okay? They don't, they might charge higher fees, but they have controls.
Right.
The independent broker, the folks on that HUD subprime list, there's nobody watching them. They don't care about their reputation.
Right.
Okay? They don't care if you ever badmouth them. They're going to take $10,000 from you, and in many cases you won't even know what they took from you.
Right.
They hide it. It's buried. Get counseling. Before you sign a deal, get counseling. Don't wait till you sign the deal and then go look for somebody because the ink is dry. Sometimes you have 3-day right to cancel. Take advantage of that. But once that's over, you're in that loan. Get it before that.
Okay, if you don't own a house, do you guys help with financial counseling in general? You're a renter or you have other kind of issues, credit card and stuff like that?
Most counseling organizations, the primary business is first-time buyers.
I see.
The counseling network, the history, the support has all been about credit repair, savings, budget management, getting ready to be a homeowner. Okay, 90% of the counseling has been on getting people into homes. Okay, so there are free counseling, credit assessments, Every community, again, the HUD.gov, counseling
So those
organizations.
people do this
right.
too. Yeah.
Right. And so they will work with folks getting people ready to be home buyers. And you want to understand what loan not to get. Okay, what are the responsible loans? What are the responsible terms? What to watch out for? That's
How
all
to
part
fix
of
up your credit, things
fix
like
up your
that.
credit. But when you're ready for a mortgage, those counselors will help you avoid the subprime loans,
I see.
the adjustable rate loans, spending too much of your income to purchase. So free counseling for first-time buyers everywhere in the country. It's focused on home buying process. Folks that have credit problems, credit consolidation issues they'll work with them through that, even if they're not trying to buy a home.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but when it comes to home buying, again, every hour that you spend in some kind of mortgage readiness, homeownership readiness, the counseling program, every hour is probably worth $1,000 over that time you're going to be in that house. You'll learn about something that'll save you money up front. You'll learn about something that'll save you money when you refinance. You'll learn home management, home repair, insurance issues.
Right.
There's a curriculum. Most folks go through an 8 or 10 hour curriculum to get ready for home ownership.
What is the difference between the credit counseling that these organizations do versus the ones I see on TV that even call themselves nonprofit and things like that?
Yeah, and there's been some clampdown on some of these fee-based services which will work with your creditors, people you owe money, your credit cards, your car loan, things where you've gotten behind. They'll help consolidate your debts, come up with a payment plan for you. They get paid by the banks and the credit card companies. You pay them. Yeah, they call themselves nonprofit, but they're a fee service. Okay, they're a fee-based service. There are free nonprofit counseling organizations in every community. They may not, work through all that consolidation, and a consolidation company may actually be helpful.
Right.
Everything that they do, you could do for yourself. Okay, you
Yes.
can call your creditors,
Right.
you can come up with plans, but sometimes these consolidators can actually be helpful.
Yeah.
There's National Organization, Consumer Credit Counseling Service, CCCS, and they're quality, mortgage counseling, credit counseling. There are other national organizations that have responsible counselors, and they can serve both debt consolidation as well as getting people ready for new mortgage or existing mortgage. They're part of the network to
like the
support folks.
CCCS, aren't they on the HUD list too?
They're on the HUD list. In
Yeah.
every community, they'll have a CCCS chapter or organization.
Right.
They are nationally affiliated, and they've got some very good national resources. They've got call centers, and they've got well-trained folks. Each community has folks that have been certified as trained. On that HUD list, every organization listed there has staff that meet certain criteria.
Now, would that be like, I think I've heard that they'll charge, or the fee server, they'll charge like a monthly servicing fee of $30, $40, $50
Right,
kind of thing?
and the different services, and again, just go into it knowing it's a fee-based service. You're going to pay for it. It can be very helpful. They can coordinate things for you, but some of them were not doing a very good job and charging large fees. So there'll be a lot of folks out there offering help on a foreclosure, help on a mortgage problem, help at a time of crisis. The vultures will come in.
Yes.
Okay, they will advertise. They will provide services. They'll put things on the telephone poles.
Right.
Okay, sell your house for cash.
Right.
All these things. Terrible stuff out there. You always say, don't sign anything until you understand it. Don't sign under pressure. Schemes, particularly on the East Coast, we have a real bad problem in Washington, a number of other cities. They call them deed stealers, foreclosure rescue scams. When your house goes onto the foreclosure notice, there's actually a group of individuals who will drive to your house, put things on your door, put it under your door, call you, and tell you that they can get you $5,000 to get your loan out of foreclosure. Sign your deed over, and they'll give you that $5,000 or $10,000 to get your house out of foreclosure. You have just signed away your house.
I see there's a story today in the news in California. Yeah.
They're all over the place.
Yeah.
The legal action has been taken against a number in the Washington, D.C. area, but there are many more right behind them because when you own a house, you can sign your house over to anyone you want for anything that they give you. So we had a number, especially elderly folks with a lot of value in their house, a lot of equity in their house. They got behind on their very small loans. They signed over their deed. The person told them, you have 12 months to get this back. You can live there rent-free for 12 months or make a monthly payment. They race it down to the courthouse, record that deed. They now own your house, and you have no right to live in your house anymore.
Wow.
Your mortgage is still outstanding. You still owe everything you owed.
Yeah.
Nothing changed on your debt, but you don't own your house anymore. And that is being done in many, many communities because the confusion.
Yeah.
You get a foreclosure notice. It says your
Right.
house is going to go to auction in 3 weeks. What do you do? If you don't call a counselor, you get these people calling on you. They'll get you out of foreclosure. That'll happen.
So in any of these situations, the best place to go is like the HUD list at HUD.gov. Look at the counseling centers,
Right.
and talk to one in your area.
Right. You may have local public officials. Washington, D.C. has council members. They have community liaison officers. You have a county council, a town council. Most communities have some kind of public office. They can have a county housing commission or something.
Right.
Call a public officer. Call somebody whose job is to provide information. They'll know the banks in the community.
I see.
They'll know the counselors in the community.
I see.
Okay.
Right.
You go to HUD.gov. You don't understand what's going on. You pay people to be your representative
Right.
at the city, county, whatever. You can get a hold of them. They will know who the counselors are in your community.
I see. Well, that's good. I mean, I suggest there's a website called congress.org, and you put in your zip code, and it lists all your elected officials.
Right.
In your zip code that
Right.
represent you.
You can call your congressman. They have
Absolutely.
liaison services.
Right.
They will call somebody in your county or city
Right.
or area and get you connected. You've got public officials working for you. You've got nonprofit organizations working for you. The resources are there.
And they don't
Don't
have a
wait.
mode of like the other people
They're not getting
selling you something.
There's no commission. Right. No commission.
Right.
So you want to, before you do something as big as your house, as big as your mortgage, work with somebody who's not earning a fee
right.
on
That's
what
the
they
key.
do.
Yeah.
And they're out there. You just have to be patient.
Right.
We have waiting time. We can't get to every call every day.
Right.
But make appointments. You can get the information.
You don't have money to advertise because you're not ripping off a lot of people for a lot of money.
Exactly.
Right.
Right.
And that's what I've been trying to do, is show people about this kind of stuff.
Right.
You go to the huckster on TV selling your stuff, and because that's all you know. Well, that's why you guys have so much other stuff too that you do. What I was really impressed with that you collect all the programs that are available, money assistance programs, in the local area for your region.
Right.
I mean, you got a dozen or so money programs to help people buy houses, whether you're a local policeman and need help funding a house, or the IDA accounts that you have.
Most jurisdictions at a state level, Washington, D.C. operates as a state city, right? They get federal money, okay, and they will help with down payment loan programs. They'll help with, they fund counseling, but they'll have money that most states actually raise money through tax-exempt bonds and then relend it. These are income restricted. You have to have income below, a certain number, but the number's not real low, okay?
Yeah.
It's there for average.
Do you know what a family of four is here?
Well, in Washington, D.C., there's a couple of programs. There's a great program if a family of four income is under $72,000.
Under 72,000,
which is 80% of the area average income,
Right.
area median income. There's actually programs where you can earn up to about $110,000 and still get some of the D.C. government benefits.
And that for buying or fixing up houses and things like that?
Well, that's for buying homes, and that's all targeted to first-time
I
home
see,
buyers.
right.
Okay. Once you own your home, you really don't get many government programs.
Right.
Okay. The money's there to help people get started.
Right.
Get into that home, build wealth, become a
Right.
more productive member of the
Exactly.
community, and that's where federal money goes, state money goes. But every community, again, you go through the public officials, the
Right.
counseling organizations. They'll know. MANA puts it out there for Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
Very strong programs, down payment loans, special things for government employees, special things for people that are police or or teachers,
Teacher,
etc. You don't know till you ask.
Right. Yeah, that's the way it is. And like, you gotta know the questions to ask.
Got to know the questions. Got to know where to look.
Right. Well, I mean, that's why to me, you're sitting there. How would I know to ask for free credit counseling? You know, when I see all these hucksters trying to sell me something for $100 an hour, or whatever it is.
Right.
Yeah.
And you don't think you need counseling, folks.
Exactly.
I'm not low income. You know, I've gone to.
I'm not in trouble. I'm smart.
Yeah. I've got degrees and all this.
Yeah.
Mortgage lending is very complicated.
Yeah.
Okay, the mortgage process is very complicated. Most people go through and buy one house, maybe two houses. You know, every 5 or 10 years, you have to focus
Right.
for a month, and then you forget about it.
Right.
Which is okay unless you sign something you didn't understand. Right. Okay, and then you're living with that, and it might not come back and bite you for 2 or 3 years. That's what we're working with right now. It's 2 years, 3 years after people sign these bad loans that it's really starting to bite. And the loans that are defaulting now are because the subprime market went from 8 or 10% of the market to 25, 28% of the national market. More than half the loans for minority families in 2005, 2006, and they had about a 2-year window before the payments jacked up on folks and bit them. That's what the country's being dragged down by.
2 years is happening now. Huh?
Right.
Well, I'm glad you guys are here. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.